Lesson 6-2 is on estimate with percents. Our learning target is I can estimate with percents. Alright, so when you're estimating, you're trying to find compatible numbers. So that means you're just rounding to percents that are easy to work with. You also might be rounding the actual value. So again, we're talking about, if we're thinking about dollars or gallons or minutes, rounding those to numbers that are easy to work with. So for example, 13/24 is not very compatible, but I can say it's pretty close to 12/24, which is about half. Okay, so benchmarks are what we talked about in class, looking at this set of percents that you should know. Main ones I want you to focus on would just be 10% and 50%. That you could always find half of something. That's what 50% would be. And then that you can find 10%. And again, 10% is just going to be by moving your decimal place one place back, one place to the left. All right, so 21% of 66. This is pretty close to 20%. So looking at that, we could think of it as a couple of different ways. What they're going to do here is they're saying 1/5, but what I would do with that is I would take 6.6, which is 10%, and take 2 of them. So 2 6.6s would be about 13.2. So let's see if I can. Okay, hopefully this is a little bit better. So we know that 10% of 66 is 6.6. We need 2 10% to get to 20%. So just take 2 times 6.6, which would be 13.2. That means that 21% of 66 is about 13. Okay, now try this one. 36% of 120. So I look at 36% and I see that that is going to be about 35%. That means I need 3 10%. So I take 120 and 10% would be 12. So I need 3 12s and then one more 5%. So 3 12s would be 3 times 12 is 36, plus 5% would be half of that. So that would be 36 plus 6 would be 42. This is where come over here. The 3 10%, so 3 times 12 would be 36, plus half would be the 6. 42 is our answer. All right, so try this one out. Hit pause. And we're back. So about 27. Now try this one. Hit pause. And we're back. Should get about 58.5. All right, looking at some problem-solving situations. Maria took her mother out to lunch for her birthday. The total cost of their food, drinks, and dessert was $20.15. If the sales tax was 7% and Maria wants to leave a 15% tip, about how much should she pay? Okay, so first of all, we got to figure out the answer is the total amount Maria should pay for the lunch. We know that the drinks, everything else from food and dessert was about $20. We have to pay tax on that, and she wants to leave a 15% tip. Now, looking through here, if you want to just, an easy way of looking at this would be just to combine the two amounts together. So 7% and 15%. We could do that. It's going to be about 22%, which is pretty close to 20%. So we're going to look at that and say, I need to take 20% of $20. All right, so 20% would just be 2 10%. So we look at $20 move your decimal place one place back, so it would be 2. 2, 10%, so it would be 2 times 2 is $4. So she should be leaving $4. Now the question was, what is the total she should leave? So she already has to pay the $20.15 exactly, plus about $4, so she could leave $24.15. Looking back, was this reasonable? So again, she's not going to just leave $4 because that's not paying for the bill. The $4 is the tip with tax, so $24.15 does make sense. All right, here's another one that you guys can try on your own. So try this out and then hit pause. And now we're back, so let's see how you did. So together it's going to be about a 24%. So we're going to leave about 25%, so it's going to be 2 halves. So if you cut 25 in half twice, you get 625. Leave 625 on top of the first bill. That's 24.85. I'm sorry, yeah, plus 625 is 31.10. Which now this should make sense. Okay, last question. A printing company has determined that approximately 6% of the books it prints have errors. Out of a printing run of 2,050 books, the production manager estimates that 250 books have errors. Estimate to see if the manager's number is reasonable. Explain. Okay, so looking through here, if we're saying this is approximately 6%, that is actually less than 10%. So if we look through here and say 2,050, if we were to go back one place, that means 10% is 205. Now, if the manager is estimating that 250 books have errors, that is actually, and he's thinking this is 6%, this number is over 205, and the percent is actually less than 10%. So this does not make sense. And they're going to look at some different ways to check this out, but basically they're getting over 10%, maybe more like 16% errors. And if we just try to figure out where they're at here, it's much greater than that. So no, this is not reasonable. Try this one out and see how you do. Hit pause now, and we're back. So this one is reasonable. And that is all.